So Canada just defeated Suriname 3-0 to go on the CONCACAF Nations League semifinals 4-0. What does it mean? Well, let's talk about it. Guys, welcome back to So What Does It Mean Again? This is just our match recap, reaction, talking a little bit about some of the things we saw. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe, whatever buttons you need. Turn on notifications so you know when the next video hits. We're going to wrap up here in terms of Canada and their Nations League here because they don't play until March. We'll talk about this game here. Don't forget, guys, though, we are the Africans. We're going to be talking about the qualified teams that made it to AFCON a little bit later on this week. So keep your eyes looked out for this. But 3-0 on Tuesday is the score. There's a lot to talk about. Also, guys, there is a longer format podcast versions of this I did with a keeper saves here, Sean. You'll see him with different things from the Tunnel Club for TFC. We had a short conversation about those two games, so make sure you drop and check us out at our podcast to see how it is. But 3-0 again. It's a score. Goals from Jacob Schaffelberg, 2, and then 1 from Jonathan David. What does this mean? I think there's a lot of points to bring up. I think Jacob Schaffelberg is an interesting conversation to have in terms of him, but let's go to what happened, how the game worked out, what we saw in terms of the game. I think the first thing that is interesting is starting 11. We saw a switch from what we saw in Suriname. Kamal Miller came into the game for Joel Waterman. Mathieu Choignard came in for Ishmael Kone. And then you had Kyle Larin come in for Tani Oluwaseyi. I think this was an interesting. I figured Kamal would have started the Suriname matchup, so wasn't surprised to see him here. Choignard for Kone makes sense, allows Eustachio to move a little bit further up the pitch, and Larin gave you a little bit more attacking. You saw that Canada was trying to come out on the front foot and try to establish what they were trying to do in the game. What I did enjoy about this game was they kind of were uncomfortable. You saw in the first bit of the game, a little bit, they weren't tense, but there was just that the longer that game went on, the more you knew the ghosts of last year, the Jamaica game, were always going to be with them until they got that first goal and really kept their foot on the pedal. And we were able to see that. I will say this off the bat. I don't know how I feel about the refereeing. I'm one who says I don't need you to be good. I don't need you to be bad. I just need you to be consistent. And I don't feel like they were very much consistent in this game. No, but maybe that was the moment they were consistent in terms of what they were trying to push forward. So I found the game in terms of just how it was flowing a little bit hard. There were a lot of fouls that you can say, hey, we're being called, but then there was a lot of calls that weren't being called. So that game kind of went on. First 20 or so minutes, then you get the first goal by Jonathan David. A little bit of a controversy goal. Was it a handball when it was cleared, but then ricocheted off of, I believe it was Jacob Schaffelberg. Some will say it was off the hand or arm. Others will say it was shoulder. Regardless, the ball ends up in the back of the net, and that is that exhale, that piece of relief that Canada's able to go through. Then they're able to breathe. 7 minutes later, Jacob Schaffelberg scores. It's 2-0. You get a yellow card to Vassen, who's angry at the goal that goes in. What we think Moise Mabito scores in the 45th minute or 46th minute of additional time. So the first minute of additional time, goal gets waved off for a foul. And that was something that was found interesting. It was just, okay, they're checking teams quick. They're going through. That's the game. Overall, a good first half. Second half goes 67th minute. You see Jacob Schaffelberg score his third. At halftime, Suriname makes some changes. Canada makes changes in the 64th minute. Kone and Seeger come on for Johnston and Choignard. And then Jamie Labella comes on for Kamal Miller, who, that man left his body on the pitch. Not much more you can say. Injured in the first minute, obviously. Took a foot to the knee, took a knee to the face, took another knee to the face. The man went through it. Jokingly saying he had nothing left to prove. Let the man just finish his game. That was a game. Buchanan on for Ali Ahmed in the 74th minute, and then Schaffelberg and Laren off for Hoylett and Theo Bear in the 81st. This was a game, if you look at the stats, I'm looking at ESPN stats here for this. 55 to 43 in prison. Oh, 55 to 45 in prison. Where's my math? 4 shots on goal for Canada, 1 for Suriname, 12 shot attempts to 4, 1 yellow card. I thought Canada had a yellow card, but whatever. 5 corner kicks to 2, 1 save each for the goalkeepers. I like the flow. The thing that I liked the most about this game was that you saw them have to really work through their ghosts, and that was encouraging for them to see. As a fan of Canada, to see them kind of work through that. Whether that first goal should have counted or not, I think they were still able to push. Suriname had a few moments on the counter where when they decided to stop sitting in that low block. And I think, again, back to the first reaction, I think you definitely see pieces for what Suriname could be in a few years. But again, they still have a few more pieces that they need to add, plus just a different style of play that they need to be able to play with the likes of a Canada, let alone USA and Mexico, depending on where you have those teams ranked in CONCACAF. I liked that overall. So Canada wins that game. And what does that mean? It means they're headed to the CONCACAF Nations League semis. They are the number 1 ranked team based off of 2 wins and goal differential. They get the goal differential of +4 over US. The US had a +3, so they had more goals. So Canada will be playing Mexico, who only won 1 game, but won that game convincingly at home. And the US will be playing Panama. What does this mean? I think it's an interesting spot for the program. They have another opportunity to play for a trophy, which is exciting and encouraging for what they can do. I think they need something to really cement this era of football for them. When we look on the women's side, though now it is a little bit murkied with all the drones and conversations, you still had the Olympic medals, right? You have 2 bronze and a gold that you had to show, hey, good era. They had this. They shows Canada's men's don't have anything to show for it. They were the finalists for 1 Nations League, semi-finalists for a Gold Cup, and the quarterfinals for another. They need a trophy. Maybe it is this section. They did this also without Derek Cornelius. They did this without Alphonso Davies, which is encouraging. You look at that 11, I think form is going to be very interesting to watch, especially because those players who started to emerge, like those MLS base, Jacob Schaffelberg, Ali Ahmed, even Adane St. Clair and Maxime Crépeau, those players are MLS bound, so they'll be maybe in their preseason come time for that window. And so you're going to look to the likes of Tejan Buchanan to get into great form, so maybe he supplants an Ali Ahmed in March. That left attacking midfield, I think that's the interesting spot. Jacob Schaffelberg gets the brace. He's the man of the match. I always wonder, what is his role? I think right now he's the starter in that spot, especially with no Liam Miller. I do wonder how sustainable that's going to be. I think he's a good player when his job is simple. When he's attacking the end line, cutting it back inside, staying outside, going on runs. Very direct player. And Marsh loves his direct pressing players. But I keep on looking at that position. I'm thinking to myself, can you do better possibly? And this is by no means any knock on the player. I think he's done a fabulous job. At times, he's been the best player on the pitch for Canada, or the most direct, most lively. But I keep looking at that position and thinking to myself, are there options? Whether they be MLS, whether they be players in Europe who maybe gain some minutes, gain some opportunities, maybe whether that means they get some good form, right? I don't know if a Jaden Nelson plays well enough, if he gets a look. I don't know if a Theo Corbiano, if he gets minutes, starts to get playing time, he gets a look. There's a dual national conversation, whether it's a Luka Kolyosho or others. I'm curious, but I think that will be the thing I'll look at most. Also, injuries. You don't want any injuries. But I think that's what I'll be looking at, because I think that's the one position that you need something. And I think it doesn't hurt Schaffelberg, even if he just becomes a 45-minute player, where maybe you have someone that you bring on and you say, hey, go in and play and press, do this. And it doesn't work, you have Jacob Shalvik. I think that's what worked with his pairing with Liam Miller. If you need more defensively, Miller could play defensively and he could show that quality. But if Miller started and there wasn't enough going forward, you had a Schaffelberg off the bench that you can push, and now you don't have that. Now, maybe you just look and you lean on a Hoylett just because of the injuries with there, and you kind of wind it out that way. But I think it becomes very interesting what they do at that position, because I think there is potential there. Outside of that, I think it'll be very curious to see what this team looks like when they face Mexico. They're going to face a Mexico side, which we're not sure which Mexico we're going to get. Are we going to get the Mexico that plays well at home on occasion? Or are we going to play the Mexico that's looked disinterested in games? I think that's going to be key, and I'm very much excited to see what that game looks like. They have that side of the bracket definitely is the gauntlet for it. I think the U.S. can get past Panama in their matchups, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. Again, matchups are coming in March the 23rd, and then you have Canada versus Mexico, Panama versus the U.S. I think on the 20th and the 23rd, I think that left side, Canada, Mexico, that's where the money is. I think whoever wins that, they'll be better tested, but let's not sleep on Panama. Panama is a side that has proven that they can be difficult to play against. And I think that team continuing to gain form against a U.S. side, I think the best they've looked at under Pochettino will be interesting to see. But again, Canada's on the way to the semis here. What did you guys like? What you guys dislike? What are the holes you see? Who was your MVP of the window? For me, Jonathan David, very easily, hands down, was my MVP of the window. Special shout out to Alistair Johnson. I think we didn't need the dark arts of CONCACAF, but he was just solid in his role, playing, unlike whether it was Vlater coming at him, whether it was Becker sometimes coming at him, doing a good job of at least keeping that manageable. There were times that those players got the better of him in terms of pace, but just doing enough to hold up until support got there. I think those two are my MVPs of the window. Shout out to Dane Sinclair as well, who, when called upon, was there. But guys, there you have it. That's what we have. Canada's on the way there. What do you think will happen? What are you hoping will come through? Guys, let me know in the comments below. Until next time, bye-bye for now.